I'm 54 years old and my wife is 56. I thought everything was fine until I found out my wife was cheating on me after 19 years of marriage. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm still trying to figure it out. We never had kids because we had trouble getting pregnant. We tried IVF too, but it didn't work. I have a good life because I own ATMs and vending machines in North Carolina. My wife works as an assistant store manager at Walmart and makes a good living, a little less than $70,000 a year. We could always reach each other on our phones and we never had any real problems talking to each other. But as time went on, I noticed some changes. Most of the time, she would talk about an old friend and tell me all about his life. It didn't seem like a red flag at the time, but I can see now that I should have paid more attention to it. In spite of this, we kept working, going on date nights, and having good sex lives. Then came that terrible night when she texted me to say she would be late because Walmart had stock. At first, it didn't bother me because it was a big event and she often worked late around these times. But she didn't get back home until 2 in the morning. I wasn't able to get rid of the pain. I started to feel down when I drove to Walmart and couldn't find her car. It hurt in my gut when she didn't answer the phone when I called. It's all tearing me apart, and I don't know where to go. After about an hour, she texted me to say that she was at a friend's house drinking with a group of male coworkers. That made me feel bad in some way. What I mean is, she knew she was going somewhere, so why didn't she tell me? We've never had trouble with trust. When I asked her about it, she got angry and said I was being too controlled. She also said nothing was happening, but I wasn't sure about the whole thing, especially after we talked about using threesomes to spice up our sex lives. I didn't say anything when she finally stumbled in at 4 a.m., strongly smelling of alcohol. I don't usually accuse someone without proof, but I couldn't get rid of the uncomfortable feeling. She said she got too drunk too fast and said she was sorry the next day. I told her she was lucky not to have been pulled over and that it wasn't a good idea. She said that nothing bad happened with the boys. I couldn't really buy it, though. I said I would end the marriage if I found out she was cheating on me. Things seemed to be getting better after a few months. We were trying to be more honest with each other. However, all of a sudden I became aware of changes. Suddenly our phone, which was locked and face down, sent a text message to an unknown number. My doubts came back to me. There was a Pandora's box opened when the phone bill was looked at. I found out that my wife was texting a number I didn't know when she started calling and sending me a lot of texts. Even though it was that night, she didn't get home until the next morning. That really set off some alarms. I chose to look into it on my own by comparing the price to the people I talked to on the phone. My spouse wasn't told anything. I was eager to learn for myself. I looked through old phones we had sitting around and emails on the computer for the next 2 weeks, but I didn't find anything. I couldn't use her phone right away because it looked like everything was locked. I didn't want to bother her, but I couldn't move. At that point, I took a risky step and hired a private detective. We talked about North Carolina's divorce rules after giving you all the information you needed. The investigator then told a shocking truth about alienation of love, which is when someone else ends your marriage. A week later, the detective called me into his office with news that made me very angry. He had proof that my wife had left work early, met this person at his house, and stayed there until she had to go home. That was the worst part. Who was there to greet another man when he came to this house twice? Yeah, my wife and I are kissing each other. That was the last blow. I left the investigator's office with this evidence against me on a flash drive. Many thanks for his help. Right after he told me to go to the lawyer, I filed for divorce right away. When my wife texted me that day to say she was going to be late getting home, I didn't answer. Instead, I got my things together, called my brother, and told him everything. He and I were both mad. I went to his place because I knew I needed some time alone to get things in order. Once I got home and packed a few things, I went to my brother's house. My wife didn't text or call me. She was quiet for a reason, but I was afraid that when she found out I wasn't home, she would blow up my phone. In a strange way, her DUI arrest put her in jail and put off what had to happen. She called me and left a message before her shift because she wanted to talk. I didn't answer any of her calls or texts. Later that same day, she got divorce papers at Walmart. After 2 months, the divorce hearing took place. I refused to give up the house and some of my business, and the lawyer for my wife tried to get me to pay spousal support. The judge told us to sell the house, but when my lawyer showed proof of her cheating, she was denied spousal support in the business. Lucky for me, there wasn't much stock, so I wasn't too worried. When the divorce was over, my lawyer and I talked about suing the affair partner of my ex-wife for alienation of love. The house was finally sold after 3 more months, and the ex-wife got about $15,000 from the sale. I got almost the same amount. Around the same time, she was arrested for a second DUI. She was fined, told to do community service, and given a 2-month jail term that would not happen. We talked about the house a few times after the split, but I always hung up the phone when she brought it up. when my private detective found out that he ran a restaurant. Nearby, my lawyer and I decided to go ahead with the lawsuit against her affair partner for alienation of love. I'm waiting for the court date for it right now. I'll let you know about any changes that happen. Next is the second story. There are times when life throws you a curveball, but I never thought I'd be writing something like this. When Ashley worked at the movie theater where I see her, she had an affair with her boss. I had to tell what happened because the betrayal hurt me so much. Ashley and I had been dating for 3 years and had been living together for a year. As with any relationship, we had our ups and downs, but I really thought we were doing well. Emily and Ashley both started working at the same theater a few weeks ago. Emily and Ashley are old school friends. Emily and I were never really close, but we got along, and I was glad they were going to work together. Emily quickly found out the truth about Ashley's deal with her mean boss. Being the kind person she is, couldn't stand to see me being kept in the dark. She called me and told me everything, giving proof in the form of a video clip, showing Ashley going into the boss's office and staying there for more than an hour, along with a picture of her and the boss getting too close in the break room. The proof was so clear that I was heartbroken and angry. I was getting angry, but Emily was able to cool me down and told me that instead of going to Ashley in a rage, I should be nice and get some sweet revenge. It sounded crazy, but she convinced me that it might be the best thing to do. So with Emily's help, I came up with a plan to let Ashley experience life without me. I left town for a week, changed the locks on my house, and Ashley was completely alone. I got new locks and had them changed while Ashley was at work. I got ready, drove about 2 hours to a friend's house, and didn't check my phone or text anyone. Ashley was supposed to freak out when she couldn't get in touch with me or get into the house. It was almost fun to imagine how crazy she was. I'm still waiting for her to respond to this shocking event. I lived with him for a week and had no contact with the outside world. Ashley couldn't find me because I turned off my phone and didn't use any social media. Everything she owned was locked inside, and she couldn't get into the house or call me. I have to say that it was great to see how my sadness slowly turned into a sense of satisfaction and power. I had to get this done. When I finally got back to town, I didn't tell her. I wished she would sweat a bit more. The woman came to the house 3 days after I got back and looked upset. When I opened the door, I pretended not to know her and asked if I could help. She was going on and on about how scared she was to death, and how she thought I had died or something. I kept saying I was stupid by saying I didn't know who she was, and that I had just bought the house. She told me that many things were left in the house and that if they belonged to her, she should get them and leave before I set them all on fire. It looked like she was in the Twilight Zone, and her face was hilarious. I liked seeing her feel all of those different emotions, but I couldn't keep up the act for much longer. Finally, I did something out of character and said I thought I recognized her. But that girl had cheated on me, so she couldn't be the person I thought I knew. It was almost too good to be true how she looked when she understood and was amazed. It looked like it happened all at once. She understood why she had been suffering for 11 days. I got her. I told her to take her things out of my house and never, ever call me again. She screamed and begged me to forgive her, but I wouldn't listen. Even though there wasn't a real date planned, telling her she had to leave before my new girlfriend got here for our Netflix and chill date was brave, and it worked. She picked up her boxes with tears in her eyes and left, weeping and saying they're sorry. It might sound strange, but I thought she earned it for everything she had done to me. I feel good about the mental pain she went through and the trouble it caused her to lose all of her things. The cherry on top is now here. Remember Emily, the ex-classmate who lied to Ashley? We began to spend more time together after this whole thing, and one thing led to another. We're enjoying our new relationship. Even though life threw me a pitch, I hit it out of the park. That's the end of my story. I never thought I'd be one of those people who tell strange stories about getting even, but here we are. Sometimes life has a funny way of working things out. I hope Ashley learned from this. Don't bother someone who is ready to change the locks and leave town for a week. I would tell anyone going through something similar to be careful. Don't be afraid to stand up for your rights and take charge of the situation. I could have easily gone up to Ashley and gotten into a heated fight, but I chose to be nice instead, which paid off in a tasty way. Look at where I ended up. It was a story I will never forget, and I met someone better. This made me look like a crazy person who can't let go of the past. I must organize my next few months before he leaves. Should I keep telling him about his mother? Should I not interfere and let him sort things out? An update 3 months since my previous update. Michael graduated last week. It took some contemplation before I went. My mom says bridges must be maintained for the future. It hurt to attend service. I sat in the rear with my mother and Veronica, who was well dressed. Then they threw a massive graduation party at my mom's place. Rachel told me about it because she had to travel for a little time. Her family. Michael felt even more deceived when he performed his valedictorian speech. In his gratitude, he said his mother encouraged him to chase his aspirations, no matter what, and that the world is bigger than he realized. Anyone who knows our story may see the irony. The father, who had been there daily for 3 years, wasn't mentioned. Seattle preparations are well underway. A childhood photo, his first baseball glove, and a few baseball trophies he left in his room at my house seem to indicate a sign. He is abandoning his past. Rachel says Veronica has been tweeting about her new life in Seattle on social media.